Hey, so when last we left, we had made the quiz. Now we're going to get into the other part of it, which is building it. So we built the box for where the quiz goes. Now we're going to build what's in the box for the taking of the quiz. One thing to know about this is I'm not going to go into too much detail on all the different question types and stuff. However, something to know is just like a lot of the videos, I'm going to put a link to the Moodle Docs underneath so you can read if you want to read about stuff. All right. Um, so really, you start out with this, and it looks really not good. So you got to say, I'm going to edit the quiz. It all looks interesting, but there's no real nothing here. So you have to click this add, and this is where it gets interesting because in Moodle there is a question bank. Okay, the question bank for quiz serves the quiz, and what you can do is if I go to the question bank, just to show you kind of what it looks like is, so each course gets a category by default, and then you can build categories under that from not from this page, but from a different page, which I can show you. And so here's all the categories for all the things going on. The cool thing about this is if we do system level categories and we give the teachers all access to this, they'll be able to access all the quiz questions that people have. So that let's say I'm teaching something, but I need a World War II question because I asked something, I could go into, if somebody had made a category of World War II questions, I could go in and look at subcategories and try to find a question that would help me match my needs before I wrote it. And especially if I knew, like I knew, say, Mr. Davis has a question that he asked on his test and he wants other people to know, I could do that. But we're not going to do that right now. I could make a video on it if people want to see a video of the question bank, but it's pretty in-depth stuff. But for now, all you're going to do is go to add a new question. So here are all the question types. This is just like activity types. So you can double click on it and make it happen, or single click and you get a description. Now, the thing to know about all these is these are all the base questions. There are actually more questions that you can do as plugins, and so they would show up in this list. There's a GeoGebra question, for example, where you can make stuff that's self-checked by GeoGebra, if you know what that is. There's a chemistry molecule Lewis structure question where you can have them make Lewis structures and it'll be checked automatically. There's all sorts of question types depending on what you want it to do. So I'll try to put a link underneath this one too about where you can see all the different question types that could be downloaded. Big thing to note is the description one is not anything in particular. It's just like a label. You can stick it in so you can add in some content if you need to. But these are, some of them are pretty self-explanatory, obviously. Multiple choice, true, false, matching, short answer, numerical. It's a numerical answer, essay. Yep. Calculated. So what happens with some of these math questions, depending on the one you're in, it allows you to say, hey, the answer can be from here to here, or there's an error margin, or something like that. The cool one is, let me see if I can find it here. It's called Simple Calculated Simple. So you can make a problem, and it will randomly generate numbers for you. So that's pretty cool because then you don't, everybody's test is going to be different then if you give it a number range and all that. You also get these fun ones of drag and drop into text, so you can drag and drop text into a sentence. You can drag and drop markers onto like a map or whatever. So if you're doing a history test and you want to see if they understand where everything was, you can drag and drop onto an image. So if you're trying to do like a lab practical in science or something like that, you can put the image in and they can drag and drop stuff right there. And then random short answer matching. Random means it will pull questions from the question bank and you can choose a category where it'll pull them from. And then you could just have whatever you wanted there. And that's some of the ones. There's obviously others here, but that's the main deal. If you want to see how one works, like if we just double click on multiple choice, you'll see you get the same idea. At the very top, you have to have a category. So if I wanted to change the category, I have these choices because I am part of the professional development default. I'm part of the miscellaneous default. And so there you go. And this is my introductory Moodle course. So I'm part of all those. I can get to the system and add to the science if I wanted to. Then I would put the question name, whatever I wanted to call it, and then I would put the question text. So the question name gets really kind of interesting because sometimes you want to put 1, 2, 3. I found like you might want to give a better descriptor than that for the question name. The question text goes here. Here's the feedback pretty much after you take it. You don't have to put an ID number. You can choose whether it's one answer or multiple answers are correct. You can shuffle the choices. You can use A, B, or C, or 1, 2, or 3. Here's your answers, and this is another cool part about this is, so now if you notice all these buttons, you could add a video answer, or you could add a picture answer. So instead of just answering with questions, you can now add a multimedia text. You can sit there and choose, and I know this doesn't show up for you, but you can choose the grade and you can choose the feedback they get. Okay, and then here's all your choices that you can choose. You have 5, but if you don't fill one out, that's perfectly fine. You can always add more. If you look at combined feedback, you can show feedback for correct answers and feedback for partially correct answers and feedback for incorrect answers. So this gets into if you're going to let them try multiple times and submit, you can give them feedback on what to think about, what are some, use your knowledge of common misconceptions and put them in here so that you try to guide them towards the right answer without giving them the answer so they have to think about it and reflect about it. You can say multiple tries. If you want a penalty or not penalty, you could actually take that off. You can see here, it kind of describes what it is. And you can put tags on the question. This is the place where I think tags are useful because you could say whatever question this is about. If you can think of a quick tag, you could put it there if there were tags in the system. Okay? Then what you would do is you would click Save Changes, and then you would be done. I'll show you another one here just because. So we go to add question again. Let's say we want to add a calculated question. So you can see the calculated question again. We could change the category if we want, and then name it. Here's the text, general feedback, and here we go with the answer, the grade, if it's how is it graded, and then your tolerance, how far off can you be, and the answer and how's the answer going to display. So that's the idea. You can talk about units and how you're going to handle units, and you can talk about what the units are so that if they put it in something else, and you can allow multiple tries. Okay, so that's how you build the quiz. You would go through and go question by question, adding them. You're going to want to make sure you think of the question bank at least if we're going to use Moodle for a long period of time, because then you would build up as time goes on. You build up questions, and you can always go in and make new ones. But you go, oh, that was a really good question. I like that one. You can keep it around and always bring it back. And when you get to it, you can always start doing stuff like this random short answer or random matching, where it's just going to pull from a certain category, and you can just pull it. And so then when you pull it, everybody's test is different, and as long as you're satisfied in what your tests are asking, that would be a good way to do it as well. All right, so that's the video. That's how you build the quiz once you're done with making the quiz.